I noticed it the moment he bent down to tie his shoes. His wedding ring, normally shining on his left hand, was gone. At first, I thought maybe he forgot it, but then I saw him slip it into his work bag quietly, deliberately, like someone tucking away evidence. My heart didn't break in one clean motion. It cracked in slow, trembling lines. I stood in the doorway pretending to sip coffee, pretending not to notice. Pretending my world wasn't about to tilt. I didn't say anything. That's the part that surprises people when I tell them this story, the silence. But silence is where women like me have learned to survive. I watched him give me a casual smile. A tight one. The kind that doesn't reach the eyes. He kissed my forehead like he always did. But something lingered in the air afterward. Something metallic, dishonest. The house felt as still once he left. I wandered through the rooms, touching the things we built together, trying to understand when he began slipping away. I thought back to the last few months, the extra long meetings, the sudden gym sessions, the way he'd started guarding his phone like it was a wounded animal. A chill moved through me. I didn't want to believe my instinct, but it curled around my ribs like a fist. I decided I wouldn't confront him blindly. Pain is heavy enough without adding humiliation. So I became quieter, more observant. I began paying attention to how he adjusted his hair before leaving, how he checked himself twice in the mirror, how he cleared his phone history. It wasn't one thing, it was all of them, layered like sediment. But the ring was the one I couldn't ignore. 2 weeks passed, and during those 2 weeks I transformed into someone I didn't recognize. Someone strategic, someone patient. While he showered one morning, I placed a tiny camera in our entryway, angled toward the table where he always dropped his things. I didn't want to catch him doing anything indecent with someone else. I just wanted the truth in his own actions. I wanted to know who he was when he thought no one was watching. The footage accumulated quietly, like dust. Every night while he slept beside me, I reviewed the day's moments. I watched him remove his ring before leaving, slipping it into his pocket. I watched him put it back on before walking inside at night. His face carried two different versions of him, one for the world outside, and one for our home. And I had no idea which version was real anymore. Then came the afternoon that changed everything. He came home late, smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. My stomach folded into itself, but I kept my expression neutral. I served dinner, listened to him talk about traffic, nodded at the appropriate beats, all while the video waited in my pocket like a loaded secret. It wasn't until we were sitting on the couch, the TV flickering in front of us, that I finally exhaled my decision. I saw something today, I said softly. His body stiffened. Not dramatically, just a subtle tightening of the shoulders. But I caught it. I'd trained myself to catch everything. What do you mean? He asked too quickly. I didn't answer. Instead, I reached for the remote, scrolled to the folder I'd hidden behind a bland title, and pressed play. The screen brightened with the image of him in the doorway that morning, slipping off his ring and placing it into his bag. The audio captured the small clink of gold against fabric. It was painfully ordinary, and that made it worse. He stared, frozen, as though trying to understand what he was seeing. I watched his face instead of the screen. I watched panic bloom behind his eyes like a bruise. It's not what you think, he stammered. The classic anthem of the guilty. What do I think? I asked quietly, my voice steady. I practiced that steadiness. I held onto it like a lifeline. He opened his mouth, closed it, then rubbed his forehead with shaky fingers. I took it off because I didn't want to damage it at work. There's a new project. Heavy equipment. A lie so flimsy it dissolved midair. You've worked there for 8 years, I said. The ring was never a problem before. His throat bobbed. And then came the moment, the one I had waited for. The one that told me everything. He reached for my hand. Not to comfort me, but to distract me. To redirect the narrative, I pulled my hand back, slowly, deliberately. His face shifted, surprise flickering through the cracks of his confidence. There's more, I said. His eyes widened. What do you mean more? I didn't play the rest of the footage, not yet. But he didn't know that. And that not knowing was the real true serum. His breathing quickened. He ran his hands through his hair. He muttered half-formed explanations about new coworkers, new routines, new expectations. He confessed nothing. And in his desperate attempt to fill the silence, he confessed everything. He finally whispered something that made my heart squeeze, not from love, but from clarity. I didn't want anyone to think I was tied down. Our marriage reduced to rope and anchors in his mind. I let the silence settle between us again, this time heavy, undeniable. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me, and in a way, he didn't. I wasn't the woman who waited for him with blind faith anymore. When I finally stood up, I felt taller, lighter, like the truth had refilled my lungs. I'm not here to beg for honesty, I told him. But I won't live in a home built on half-truths. He reached for me again. But I stepped back. That single backward step was my revenge, not loud, not destructive, but precise. I let him see the consequences reflected in my eyes before walking upstairs and closing the door behind me. In the days that followed, he tried everything: flowers, apologies, explanations woven too neatly. But the video had already carved a permanent divide. He couldn't undo the knowledge that I watched him become someone else every morning. I didn't need to expose him, or scream, or destroy his life. My justice was simpler. I walked away before he had the chance to finish unraveling our story. And sometimes the quietest revenge is the one that echoes the longest. If you want to hear more stories like this, stay close. There's always another truth waiting.